most people who experience feeling stuck or stalling in some aspects of their life aren't confused. They're just outgrowing a chapter, an identity, a part of their life. And I think we underestimate how growth can actually feel difficult and overwhelming and uncomfortable. Because, yes, even if you are growing into a life that you desire and that you want, outgrowing old versions of yourself will still require grieving those versions, will still require letting go of friendships, of partnerships, of relationships, of parts of you who got you to this point and maybe don't belong to your next chapter, to what you're building. And I've had so many conversations lately with women that are like, they tell me, I'm reinventing and rebuilding. I feel like I'm rebuilding every single area of my life. And sometimes it literally feels like, yeah, imagine outgrowing so much within and without. Of course, it's going to feel uncertain. Of course, you're going to feel confused, but not because you don't know. Often, women I talk with, they know they have a clear direction for where they want to go in their life, in their career, in their business, with their work. But you are growing into a version of you that you've never been. So you don't know. There's so much territory that is unexplored. So, of course, there's fear, of course, there's resistance, of course, there's friction. And I think when you have a calling, when you have something that is on your heart, you know you are meant to build the thing that is on your heart and keep growing when you are an eternal, a forever student, when you're eager to learn, when you, perhaps like me, your number one core value is freedom. Freedom, not just to travel, not just to have your own, to manage your own time, but the freedom to change your mind, freedom to pivot as often as you need, freedom to evolve, freedom to outgrow even things that you have built that no longer fit. Maybe you have built a successful career, but you've lost the spark. It doesn't fulfill you. It doesn't feel it has meaning anymore. And it is key at that point when you realize that to give yourself permission to outgrow because we are meant to, if you think of your environment like a vase and you are the plant, if you are nurturing the plant will grow. And eventually, roots need to go deeper, branches need to reach wider, and you need a bigger vase, you need a bigger environment. And at that point, because growth can feel so uncomfortable, because it's most of it, what's ahead, it's unknown, as much as you want to control and plan, it's unknown. For many, that point of friction becomes the point where they stay stuck so long because they force themselves to stay small and try to fit, try to keep fitting that vase, even if right now it's too small. And that's why it feels constricting. That's why it feels constraining. You're you're showing up smaller than you want to be. You're playing smaller than you want to be. You don't have that freedom to express, to be more of you, to be bolder, to, take up more space. So of course you feel stuck because that vast, the environment, and the environment can be like every single part of your life that contributes to your environment. in a way, it stunts your growth. And at that point, your job is to create space for you to to take that space, to create space to let your roots grow deeper so you can grow taller and wider and contribute with more fruits for yourself, for your inner circle, for your bigger circle, for the people that come into your space and the world at large. Yeah, I think that is the hardest part. So many people think, and I get it. Of course, if you don't know what you want, that's also difficult. But I think we tend to underestimate how difficult it is, even when you know what you want, to give yourself permission to want it and to build it, including the part about letting go. Because every stage of growth, if I look back at my life, at all my many pivots in my career, I've changed so many jobs. I studied architecture and I worked in interior design and in creative direction. And then I started studying yoga and teaching yoga and Reiki and practicing as a Reiki practitioner and then coaching. And, and within coaching, so many different fields and specialization I went in to really then find my unique cocktail of expertise and ways I can support other women. But it took many pivots. And with every pivot, there was something I was gaining, attaining, and I was happy about and looking forward to. And there were things that had to go. And for me, and I feel for most humans, that's kind of the hardest part. Even, and this still happens even after I moved abroad when I was 25, right after perhaps a year or so after university. First to New York, it didn't work out. I spent like 3, 4 months there and then back to Italy. And then I moved to Shanghai a year after. And every time I was seeking that change. I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to move abroad because Italy for me always felt like that small vase, that small container since a very young age. So it was something I wanted, but that doesn't mean it was easy. Even when you want it, it's not easy because there is a trade-off. As I said, there is something you gain and something that, even if you're not losing, for example, your family, friends, your daily habits, and the things you have built in that country, in that part of of your life, in that relationship, in that work, in that job, in that career, as much as it doesn't fit anymore, you might change is still difficult, even when it's in the direction you want, even when it's toward your dream. And what helps me, and this is something I teach all my clients, is go back to your core values. It seems like a very basic thing, but your core values are your compass, and you can let those values guide you when you're making those decisions, when you're deciding whether you want to take that leap or not, and ask yourself, I think the price of what you gain with the leap you're taking needs to feel more alive, stronger than the cost you would pay if you stayed where you are. Because there are people that have a huge tolerance for for dissatisfaction and staying unfulfilled. And that has to do, of course, with our trauma, with our past experiences. And the bigger that tolerance you have, the more uncomfortable it is, and the more probably you're going to wait until it's like you're done. And then you must decide and change things. And then there are other people, and these are people I find myself talking to the most, myself included. I'm built like that, for better and for worse. I'm freedom and passion driven. That means that sometimes I make decisions and take leaps that sound very unreasonable to others, sometimes very illogical, very reckless or restless. And I've learned to be okay with that. So many times in my life, I remember friends telling me, you change your mind too often, or you got to stick to one career, to one path, or you're never going to build something meaningful, or like you need to think in terms of longevity, all those sound reasons and conversations. I totally get where they come from, where they were coming from, but I'm built in a different way. If there's something that is on my heart, I don't, I can't, I don't see any other possibility. I must follow that. Otherwise, for me, it's more painful to not follow. Even if I know it's going to be uncomfortable, for me, it's more painful to stay. I have, I'm, I have a very low tolerance for staying where I don't want to say I don't belong, but where I know I'm not meant to be. Yeah. And I think a huge part, if you're like me, it's very important that you don't let conventions or other people following the more conventional path influence you. You got to have a solid trust in your gut, in your heart, in your voice, and what's calling you forward. The trust in yourself needs to be bigger and steadier because, I think the biggest pain for people who are more visionaries, like you can see the future and you're ready to invest all of you and everything you have to build that, even if you have no tangible proof, even if the outcome is not guaranteed, you're all in. And I call those people visionaries because you see something that isn't there yet, hasn't been built yet, but you see it and you're the only one who can see it. So often you have people around you that, as much as they can, um, be happy to support you and do your best to support you, they cannot see what you're seeing. And perhaps they don't have as much trust in that as you do. Excuse me. And sometimes it feels lonely and isolating, but the reward is priceless, especially if you are driven by your passion. There is there is no other way forward but to follow that calling for you. And as I said, that is like for better and for worse. Because sometimes you're like, again, are we doing this again? And I hear you. I really hear you. Yeah. You've got like, you can see the bigger vase. You can see the bigger container. You can envision it. You have a clear, you can see it. but it's not there yet. And it's not guaranteed that it will look exactly as you're seeing it. And yet, you've got to let yourself permission to. If where you are, it feels constricting, if where you are, you feel like you cannot be fully yourself, or you're at the point where more of you you want to take more space. Whatever the area of your life is, you got to follow that. You got to trust that and start working towards that bigger vase step by step. And also look back in your life at all the times you evolved. How did that go for you? Did you ever regret following your calling, following your call to expansion, to growth, to moving abroad, to changing career, to leaving the relationship, to making that change? And who did you become in the process? Because I think that's the most beautiful thing. Because yes, growth is uncomfortable, it's uncertain, but the prize, the reward, when you are driven by values that really are part of your soul, like they light you up, they show you the way. When you are following what is in alignment with you, what is congruent with the way you are and who you are, when you are making decisions in coherence with who you are, who you're becoming, who you want to grow into, and what you want to build, as uncomfortable, as scary, as uncertain as growth might feel, it's like you have bigger support. It's like, I'm not saying it's easier, but it's like you feel supported. And also, you don't see other choice. You have, like, you must follow it. So it's like, yeah, I guess we're going that way. Like my heart is saying, go right, we're going right, even if I don't know what is on on the other side. But I can see it. I have an inkling, I have a hunch, I have a gut feeling. It's important you trust that. And I feel that often visionary people tend to build very unconventional life and tend to refuse to fit into one box or follow more conventional rules. And that is hard. You're a trailblazer of your own path. You're carving something, like you're walking a path that not many and maybe no one has walked before you. You're the first one. And man, how bold of you. And yeah, I'm really excited for all these women that I'm having conversation with that are really stepping, allowing themselves to step into the version of themselves that they can feel it, they can see it, instead of waiting another year, instead of waiting to be more ready, instead of waiting to be more certain, instead of waiting to be more prepared. You don't need another year thinking about it. You're already ready. You're already ready. You guys, yeah. Just closing with this. If you feel like, or if you've been calling yourself stuck, if you feel like you're stalling, maybe you're not stalling. Maybe you just need a bigger vase. Maybe you're just outgrowing. Maybe you're just outgrowing. Maybe you're just standing at the edge of your next chapter and preparing to leave something that has become too small to hold your vision, who you are, and all of you, and who you want to become. If this is landing, if this is resonating, let me know below. Follow along for the journey. I'm posting every day on YouTube. I think this is day 35, something like that. And you can follow me on Threads too. These are the two platforms where I'm most active. And in the video description, there's a link to work together. I will see you tomorrow.